Stanyo, Clanyo, what is up? It has been a minute. Welcome in to Team Stanyo Live. My name is Eric Stanyo. We got a lot to cover tonight. I'm excited to be back. It's been a while, and we're going to be talking about the hottest real estate markets in the United States for 2024. We're going to be looking at some articles that are making predictions about the top 10 hottest real estate housing markets for 2024. And spoiler alert, Cincinnati, Ohio is coming in at number 2 on that list for the hottest real estate markets in the country. We're going to look into why that is. Before we do, let us know what's going on. Where are you watching from? How was your Christmas? How was your New Year's? So it's been a long time since I've been here, and it's not because I didn't want to do a YouTube live, but going back into December before Christmas, I had a wedding on the 17th, which was a Sunday when we do our lives. And the 17th was actually my anniversary. So wedding/anniversary night, kind of hard to do a YouTube live on that day. Then it was Christmas Eve. Then it was New Year's Eve. And this last week, my wife and I just got away to a vacation in Mexico, which if you know me, I love going to Mexico, especially in January or February. I highly recommend that anyone who is living in Cincinnati or is thinking about living in Cincinnati or Northern Kentucky, just do yourself a favor and get down to Mexico. Go to Cancun. I got to go to Puerto Vallarta. It was sunny. My step count, I want to show you guys this. This is what vacation looks like for me, okay? It's, normally I'm in that like 7,500 to 10,000 range. All right. You see that? You can barely see that. I don't know. 20,000s, 4 days in a row. That's what my wife and I, it's too bright, but you can see that big ramp up right there, right? Dude, that's vacation for me. Going and walking on the beach with my wife and talking about life and going forward. So anyway, it's good to be back. Other topics on the docket, because it's been quite a while since we've talked about the Bengals. By the way, Christmas gift. You got to love it. Uno catch score gritty. Been wanting that for a while. The Bengals are out. We're watching other teams lose in the playoffs. It's very frustrating because we know that our team was better, and with a healthy Joe Burrow, this could have been our year. So might have to spend a few minutes at the end of the show tonight kind of talking about the season and what happened towards the end here, and maybe what are we going to do going forward. We got a lot of priorities to hit on in the offseason, and would love, if you guys are Bengals fans, I know some of you watching this are Bengals fans, let me know your top priorities for this team going forward in 2024, because I'm excited about that. All right, let's get into these real estate markets. And whoops, there we go. We're going to take a look at the top 10 markets and why that's the case. And we'll talk about what that means for you. We might even talk about, in a hot real estate market like we have in Cincinnati, what are some tips for you if you're thinking about buying in the area or selling in the area in the coming year. Okay. So this article by Zillow just came out. It says why Buffalo, friend of Cincinnati, will be 2024's hottest market. Their annual predictions for the hottest housing markets of the year. Factors include expected home value growth, projected change in owner-occupied households, and job growth compared to new construction. So that's kind of how those factors are how they determine the hottest markets. 2024's hottest markets all boast solid economic fundamentals, relatively fast-moving for sale housing inventory, plentiful likely buyers, and expectations for stable home values. The Midwest, Great Lakes, and South are home to most of 2024's hottest markets. Cincinnati, Columbus, Indianapolis, and Providence top this year's list. So you guys can see this map here of the top 10. Really interesting, because what you're seeing are some Midwest cities here, the Great Lakes, with Buffalo being the top. You've got Columbus and Cincinnati and Indianapolis. So these 2, 3, 4 coming in right kind of in the heart here of the Midwest. Then you've got some towns in the South. So you've got Atlanta, Charlotte, Orlando, and Tampa. You got 4 cities in Ohio, which is really interesting. And what else are you seeing on this map that stands out? What stands out to me, there's nothing in the West, at least in the top 10. Doesn't mean there aren't some hot markets out there. But in terms of top 10 from Zillow, it's all here in the Midwest and the South. So Zillow expects Buffalo, New York to be the nation's hottest housing market in 2024, with Cincinnati, Columbus, Ohio, Indianapolis, and Providence, Rhode Island, rounding up the top 5. I just, on that trip to Mexico, it was actually with some other realtors, and I met another realtor who does YouTube from Indianapolis. So, hey, maybe it's just because the YouTubers are bringing in all the people. I don't know. It's probably not the case. There's probably a YouTuber in every city across the country now. These should stand out as strong in a housing market still buffeted by low inventory and relatively high mortgage rates and prices. While mortgage rates have come down significantly in recent weeks, and we have seen that come down from, they shot up into the 8s, but they've been down into the 7s, into like 6.5 recently for a 30-year fixed. And it's likely that's going to continue into 2024. So there's a housing market prediction in terms of rates. At least what the Fed is indicating is that rates are going to keep going down. They're going to lower rates 3 times next year. Likely what that means, and we'll talk about this more, but likely what that means is a lot of people who have been sitting on the sidelines, who have been waiting for interest rates to come down and didn't buy in 2023. 2023 was a record low year for housing units sold. So basically, as rates went up at the end of 2022, everyone kind of sat out. I mean, there were still houses sold. Prices still went up here in Cincinnati, Ohio, but a lot of people have been waiting, sitting and waiting. If rates go down, what you're going to see is a rush back in. So that's likely going to happen in 2024. While mortgage rates have come down significantly in recent weeks, and projections for improved affordability and more homes for sale have become more common, the challenge that limited the United States housing market last year are unlikely to disappear entirely in 2024. So I'm going to scroll down. We'll talk about some of those challenges here before digging specifically into Cincinnati and what's going on in the market here. All right. Excuse me for that. Zillow's list of the hottest markets in 2024 is based on an analysis of forecast home value growth, recent housing market velocity, and projected changes in the labor market, home construction activity, and number of homeowner households. So that's their kind of data stew of how they're coming up with these top cities here. Evaluating Buffalo to the top of the list are recent increases in the number of jobs created compared to the number of new homes construction projects being approved. So more jobs are going to Buffalo. That's kind of why they shot up the list, as well as expectations for steady home values. Meanwhile, Cincinnati's second place rank can be chalked up to its high market velocity. What does that mean? Well, for most months of 2023, homes that went pending in Cincinnati did so in a median of just 5 or 6 days. So as a realtor here in Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky, I can attest that the market velocity was very fast in Cincinnati. It's hard, when we're kind of working in our bubble as realtors, especially as we get into the spring and summer months and it gets very busy. That's where we kind of sell the most houses. That's when the most houses come for sale. That's when the most buyers come out to buy. You can lose track about what's going on around the country. But at least here, what we notice is houses sold really fast. Now that has slowed down a little bit in the fall and winter months, and you can find houses out there. Excuse me. I hope you didn't see that in the mic. I just spit all over the place. You can find houses that have been sitting for a couple of weeks or even 30 days. In fact, I just showed a house tonight before this YouTube live that's been out there for 36 days in Amelia, Ohio. Really cute house. Updated kitchens and baths, new windows, had a nice nice shed with a metal roof in the back. They made an extra stone driveway, so the guy had parked a boat back there and his large work truck for $289,000. It was a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom with a full basement, an unfinished basement, but it was they're using it as a playroom for their kids, and they had a climbing wall down there. And $289,000. Now that's been out there for 36 days, which means right now, if I were advising my buyers and they wanted to move forward, it was a little far from their work. So that was the downside for it. But if I was advising someone who's going to put an offer on that house, I'd say, no, you don't want to come in at full price. Maybe it was 285. Sorry, I think it was 284, 900. That's where I'm getting confused. It's 285. And I said, hey, At a house like this, it's been sitting 30 days. I wouldn't offer full price. I'd either come in around 275, maybe even 270. You're probably going to counter somewhere in the middle there. And based on that neighborhood, I mean, even getting that 285 is a pretty good deal, honestly, for what they've put into that house and what others have sold around there. But just because it's sitting and it's winter, you can come in a little bit lower. Now, when springtime comes and rates do go down and all the buyers start streaming in, you're not going to have an opportunity like that. That house will be gone in 4 days or less, and which is what happened last year, which is why Cincinnati's ranking so high, is because one of the factors that Zillow is looking at is this market velocity, meaning the speed of how fast the homes are selling. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. I'm going to keep looking at this list nationally, and then I'll dig down a little bit more into why I think, in Cincinnati, what can we expect in the year to come? And if, like I said, if you're thinking of buying or selling here, what you might want to know, and some tips for how to get through the market that we're going to see in 2024. So here's a closer look at what shot markets to the top of the list. Again, going down this list just as a review before we scroll down here: Buffalo, New York, number 1; Cincinnati, Columbus, Indianapolis, 2, 3, 4; Providence, Rhode Island; Atlanta, Georgia; Charlotte, North Carolina; Cleveland coming in as the 4th; Ohio City, sorry, I can't count, 3rd Ohio City. I guess I'm including Indianapolis in that, which I shouldn't, because Indianapolis is in Indiana. Orlando, Florida, and Tampa, Florida, which I've got some family who just moved down to the Tampa, Florida area. All right, so here's how Zillow ranked them. Price growth. The home value growth slowed in 2023, fueled in large part by the highest mortgage interest rates ever seen since 2008. So we had the largest mortgage, the largest interest rates we've seen in 15 years. And that slowed down price growth, because some people, like I said, they're like, whoa, we were looking at a 4.5% rate and now it's 7.5%. That's going to knock you a couple $100 a month, maybe even $1,000 a month, depending on your price point. And it's like, that's a big difference in what you can afford. So that tamped down the demand. Less demand, prices slowed. They didn't. Well, in some markets they went down. Here in Cincinnati they didn't, but in some places around the country they certainly went down. Even the fastest growing markets of 2023 are expected to see significant slowdowns in the year to come. Hartford, Connecticut, had the highest year-over-year home value growth of any country's large markets in 2023 at 11%. So that was the highest year-over-year home value growth, was 11. So that was, we were seeing 15, 17, even 20% in 2021 and 2022. So that rate is expected to decline to 0.7% in 2024. That's a huge decline. Charlotte, last year's hottest market, is expected to maintain its steady growth at 1.2%, and Buffalo's typical home value is expected to decline in 2024 by 0.2%. So really interesting. Even though they're the hottest market, their price growth is actually expected to decline 0.2%. All right, inventory and velocity. Here's where Cincinnati kind of comes in. The inflow of new listings in 2023 slowed dramatically from last year, keeping for sale inventory at multi-year lows. It's likely that these low inventory markets, in which buyers had the hardest time finding a home, and homes generally sold very quickly in 2023, will continue to experience outsized demand relative to supply in 2024 compared to other markets. The markets with the fewest listing days per home in 2023, in other words, where the homes generally sold the fastest, were Hartford, Cincinnati, and Columbus. All right, translation. We had very low inventory here in Cincinnati, and spoiler alert again for 2024, it's going to still be very low inventory. So it's going to be hard. Houses are going to sell fast. If you're a seller, great. You're going to get, you're going to get what you want for your house again. You're going to be able to sell it relatively easy. If you're a buyer, it's going to be a challenge again, because there's not a lot of inventory. Builders are building, but they're not building to the point where they're coming up. And here's the big reason why it's staying down here. And I think going back to this, this map as to where the hottest housing markets are, there's only a few remaining affordable cities in the country. That's an actual city. right? Where you can actually do things. That's not like in the middle of nowhere. And so if you want to live in a city that has great amenities, like great pro sports and a great art scene and a great culinary scene and, a job, well, those cities that exist that are still affordable, where if you're a first time home buyer, like if you're a millennial who's been saving up and you want to buy that first house, you can do it here in Cincinnati and buy that house for 300. Or you're going to be in these, a lot of these houses in the Sun Belt where you've been priced out the last few years, where cash buyers and investors have priced up the market, as well as a flux of a lot of people moving there. And that first time home buyer house is what? 400, 450, 500. It's a lot harder, right? And so that's why I think you're seeing, that's why that velocity of sale is here. That's why a lot of you guys watch this channel, because that Cincinnati is like one of the markets where you could still buy a home. You could still get that American dream and get that equity starting, even if it's like not the house you want. You can still get something here. Same in Indianapolis, same in Columbus, same in Cleveland, and so and in Buffalo. I think that's number one. So that's a big part of it, and that's why. But just knowing that in 2024, inventory is still low, velocity is still going to be high. So if a home hits the market here in Cincinnati that's priced right and it's in good condition and it's in a neighborhood that people want to live in, it's going to go fast. It's going to go in multiple offers again. And if rates come down, it's going to might be a little bit of a wild house. What's up, VK? How's progress going at Ballyshannon? I remember you said they are still building. They are. In fact, the nice thing about Ballyshannon, I'm going to do a quick transition here. And I'm going to show you guys on a map. Union, Kentucky. I like this neighborhood. A lot of Fisher homes in this neighborhood. Let me make this bigger for you guys. And one recent update to Ballyshannon, which is pretty cool. So kind of typically the way you come in here is, let me zoom out a little bit. The main access points to Ballyshannon is you're getting off at the US 42 exit, which is kind of the Florence Union exit. And you come down 42. This is actually where I grew up, off of 237 right here. And this neighborhood, Ballyshannon, you come back kind of through Orleans, and the front of the neighborhood is right here. It's super pretty. There's a pool. There is kind of a clubhouse here. There's a really pretty lake. It's shamrock themed. There's a playground for the kids, and most of the neighborhood has been built from here and going back. And that's where this satellite's a little bit delayed, but there's been a ton of building here. Sold several homes. In fact, a few to you guys on YouTube, on Donegal here. And the Ballyshannon Middle School is right here, which is great. So if you've got kids in middle school, they can walk or bike to the school, or easy drop off. And where some other clients have bought here on Green Isle, the nice thing is this road, Donegal, has finally cut all the way through to Hathaway. And so besides coming in on US 42, I'm going to go back to the map here so it's not so confusing. But this road on 536, you have access back here. So now there's basically two ways into the subdivision, because it's a pretty large subdivision. And you can take 536 all the way and just shoot that east to the Union exit here. So then you've got, you're probably 6 or 7 minutes to the interstate that way. Whereas if you were back here and you had to go to the front and then up to 42, you're probably like 10, 11 minutes to the interstate. So that's really nice in terms of that access. And this is where, a lot of this growth is happening in Union. This Union Promenade is being built out right here, where there's going to be a lot of retail and mixed retail space. And there's already, a lot of the older growth in or existing homes in Union is out here in Triple Crown and Weatherington. So, but they're kind of going out this way, making their way a little bit south in Ridgewood. But yeah, new opportunities there in Ballyshannon. Really cool neighborhood. Do lenders treat student loan different to consumer credit card debt, or do they treat it the same way? VK, that's a really good question that I don't know if I know the answer to. But if you want to shoot me an email, info@teamsanyo.com, I can connect you with my lenders who could answer that question in 2 seconds flat. I think if were to guess on that, it's overall your kind of debt to asset ratio. So I think it's basically treated the same way um, when they're running their calculations, but don't hold me to that. But anyway, yeah, shoot me an email. Happy to connect you with a lender, like I said, who can answer that for you. Good question. Okay. All right, back to what's going on with these hottest markets. All right, so we looked at price growth, we've looked at inventory and velocity. Let's look at demographics. This I find this is a fun one. All right, baby boomers and millennials. The two most important demographics when it comes to the two hot real estate markets right now. Baby boomers and millennials represent two enormous generations, and both are very active in the housing market. Boomers are hardly exiting the market as they age, a departure from previous generations at the same age, and millennials are aging into their prime home buying years as they hit their early and mid 30s. By the way, technically, I'm a millennial. I am 40. How old am I? 42. I'm 42 years old, and I think I'm like the oldest millennial. I'm like the grandpa of the millennials. I was born in 1981, so most millennials are in their early to mid 30s, but I'm like grandpa millennial who got to live in the 80s, which was great. And I had older brothers, which kind of like pulled me back into the 70s a little bit and early 80s. It's fantastic. Star Wars and riding bikes, and I had a banana seat bike. Did you guys ever have a banana seat bike? Remember those? And I was like hugging my older brother Brian. We'd like be driving around the neighborhood and trying to get baseball cards. We'd eat that baseball card gum. We'd be gone for hours. Life was different and awesome. My wife, very different story. My wife is the oldest. She's 4 years younger than me, so we do have a little bit of an age gap. But she's the oldest, and her younger siblings, I feel like, pulled her into the 90s, and I got pulled back into the 80s. Very different experiences. A lot of things happen with uh, helicopter parenting and all those crazy shows about kids being kidnapped, and we got a little bit more cautious about how we parent, I would say, from the 80s and 90s. Anyway, there's a little bit more about me. Now you know a little bit more about me. You may not care, but some of you guys are still watching, so here we go. Okay, in 2024, only 14 of the 50 largest markets are expected to see home ownership rise. That's so crazy. Only 14 of the 50 largest markets are expected to see home ownership rise. The market with the most lift in the for sale market is Columbus, with a trend suggesting the formation of 11.4% more owning households, assuming there are homes available for them to buy. I think I'd have to look up some articles on this. My speculation on that would be university town. So you've got Ohio State University. So you've got a lot of people who graduated and probably live there, millennials who are still living, and now they've saved up and now they can buy more homes, combined with the affordability of the city. And so that's, going back to that map that I mentioned before, I think you're seeing a combination of millennials who want that buyer demand and the, people relocating from the coasts or various places around the country where they've been priced out. On this channel, in my business, we've helped a lot of people move to the area. Love doing that. Thank you. Thank you for watching the channel and subscribing. But a lot of those people from California, Colorado, Seattle, Washington, Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada, some from Texas, Chicago, Minnesota, some New York. And so, different places where I feel like some families have gotten priced out a little bit, are looking for those affordable cities. And that's where that's why I think you see this kind of like cluster in the Midwest or some of these affordable cities where that's happening. So moving on here, Austin and Memphis follow at 9.7% and 9.6% of the markets with negative demographic pressure. Birmingham is expected to have the least, negative 25%, then San Diego, negative 21%. So that means 25% of people less buying. Wow. So people are not moving to Birmingham. People are not moving to San Diego or buying homes in San Diego, I should say, Oklahoma City. Of the markets studied, the coolest metro areas of 2024 are expected to include New Orleans, San Antonio, Denver, Houston, and Minneapolis. Coolest metro areas. Interesting. Each of these is characterized by expected annual home value declines, led by New Orleans, where Zillow expects a typical home value to fall by 6% in 2024, and by projected decline in the number of owner-occupied households. So this is really interesting. I think what we're seeing, whereas in in COVID, 2020, 21, and 22, you saw most markets across the country rise. Very few did you see home values fall. This year, I think you're actually going to see a mix. I think you're going to see a mix around the country where some places where people are moving out, or there's less, demand coming up from millennials or boomers are moving out. Well, when you have less demand, price goes down, right? Supply and demand. And so less buyer demand, more housing supply, prices will go down. So I'll be very interested to see in some of these cities across the country where those prices are starting to fall. If you don't see more sellers, starting to cash out if they bought in the last 5 years or more. And if you're watching across the country, let me know what's going on in your city. I'd be very interested. Like I said, I get a little bit locked in to Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area, but would love to hear what that is looking like where you live, and what you think is going to happen in the next year where you're at. All right, so that is the Zillow article. I'm going to bounce over to the Cincinnati one that kind of highlights this article. So some of this is pretty much the same info with a little bit of context. So Zillow names Cincinnati one of the hottest markets, according to a new report. That's the number 2 spot, only bested by Buffalo, as we saw. Cincinnati was not interesting on this. Cincinnati was not included on Zillow's same list for 2023. So it wasn't in the top 10 of the nation's 50 largest metros, and it shot all the way up to number 2. To compile its rankings, Zillow considers expected home value appreciation from December 23 through November 24, anticipated change in home value appreciation from last year, job growth per new housing unit permitted. So that's a different way of saying that, but basically it's saying how many new jobs do you have versus how many new homes are being built or being permitted. So what that tells me as well is, builders here in Cincinnati, they've got more room to grow. So they're going to keep trying to gobble up land. It's a little tricky if you don't know the Cincinnati area, in terms of where you can buy land that's built, makes sense for developers, because there is a fair amount of terrain in the area. And let's see if I can do this. If you look at, okay, here we go. So if you look at where there has been growth, that's mostly this white, that's where the interstates are, but it's also where it's a little bit flatter. Cincinnati is also known as the city of 7 hills. Around downtown Cincinnati, there are 7 hills. And where a lot of the growth has been going has been down 71 here in Boone County. It gets a little bit harder as you get into southern Kenton and Campbell County because it's so hilly out here. And so where regionally a lot of where the other growth is going, and I think eventually, honestly, building is going to keep going down here to kind of Williamstown, Dry Ridge. You have the ARC encounter down here. There's a decent amount of economic development because of the ARC encounter. And then, excuse me, it might eventually make its way to Lexington, but this is pretty open right now. There's not a lot of population right here. Georgetown is the largest city, which is about an hour, I would say, south of Cincy, 45 minutes to an hour, and Lexington's about an hour and a half. And now the difference is on the north side of Cincy, and again, you can see that white versus the green. There's a lot. This is where builders, I think, are trying to gobble up land a little bit more because it's flatter. It's a little bit easier. I mean, you can just, again, scroll out and you see Ohio is flatter here. And as you get into Columbus, and I never lived in Columbus, I know a lot of Ohio State whatever. I haven't spent a ton of time in Columbus, but Columbus and Indianapolis, just as you scroll out here, much flatter. It's a little bit easier to develop. Indianapolis, they get one thing I'm jealous about Indianapolis is they have, the NCAA there, and they've got great arenas where they can host the NCAA tournament. One thing that Cincy doesn't have, even though we have this amazing, you know, we're not flat, so it's harder to develop, but we also have the beauty of the hills. And so I would say like our city is a lot prettier than Indianapolis or Columbus or Dayton or Cleveland. Because you have the river and you have these hills, and it just gives you a lot more diversity in the topography and terrain and different sight lines and things like that. But it makes it a lot more challenging to develop. We've got this old arena in downtown that the city knows that if we had a better world-class like arena, we could get conventions. We could have a lot more business kind of coming to the city. But it's a challenge because like, if you look at Cincy, it's just locked in by these hills, and everything has been developed down here. And so it's like where are we going to build this thing? Like, it's really hard because this is, the interstate and the railroad going up here. So the downtown Cincinnati, it's just like, it's kind of locked in. Now, where I think it's going to go, and I was right, by the way, on the Cincinnati Railway, them selling it. But where Cincinnati is going to build an arena in the next few years, because right now it's right down here, Heritage Bank Center, right by Great American Ballpark, but it's outdated and it's kind of trapped in there. Where I think where the new one will go is going to be over here in the West End. So we're redoing this bridge, or we're adding a second bridge. I think this spaghetti interstate probably mess is going to get fixed in some way. And a lot of money is going into around TQL Stadium for development. And I think we'll get an arena somewhere down here. There's also a lot of money going into, where is it? The convention center, the current convention center down here. There's City Hall, which is down here. There it is, down on 6th. And a new hotel is going in down here. So I just think this west side of the city is poised to probably see an arena go in. Anyway, sorry, I'm sidetracking. Stop me, guys. You can yell at me at the comments if you don't want this info. Okay, going back to Cincinnati here. Oh, yeah. Okay, new home sales. The report noted Cincinnati's housing inventory is moving at a rapid pace with the average of 11 days on market for homes. That's 10 days quicker than the national average of 21. So a little different numbers here. I think the other report said 4 to 5 days, but either way, the average for days on market nationally were 50% faster here in Cincinnati. Zillow's current status puts a typical home in the Cincinnati metro at $270,000. It estimated the monthly mortgage with a 5% down payment at $1,959. So you can buy a house here, 5% down on 270. What is that? 10, 35, $13,500. Is that right? For 5%, and your monthly payment would be at about under $2,000 a month to own a house. And that 270 is going to get you a 3-bedroom, 2.5 full bath house. On the one I saw tonight was actually, I think it was 0.37 acres, had a nice wooded backyard. I mean, you don't get that in a lot of cities, right? And that's why inventory, I think, is going to still be low, because I think more and more people are going to move here. Columbus and Cleveland also made the top 10. Though Cincinnati ranked highest on the list, Columbus was right below. Zillow noted affordability is the most powerful driving force in real estate, making Midwest markets like Cincinnati much more attractive than their coastal counterparts. I'm just going to throw that in the chat. Why not? That's an important one to remember. Okay. Zillow noted affordability is the most powerful driving force in real estate. So again, going back to this map and going back to the median home prices, that's where I think that's what's on this list, except for maybe Atlanta and Orlando and Tampa. That is maybe more for a few other reasons. I mean, you got the weather, and I think you've seen a lot of people go to Florida. not to get too political, but because, um, I think some of the governing there has led more people from various blue states to maybe move to Florida, in Orlando and Tampa. Um, but of these other cities on here, I think what you're seeing is, where is the affordability? And you're not seeing that in the Sun Belt as much. So you're not seeing it. You're not seeing the top 10 with Texas and Phoenix, because it hasn't been just buyers who are looking, first time home buyers. You've got investors like the BlackRocks of the world who have been gobbling up these properties in the Sunbelt states, causing that demand to go up and buying with cash. That's made it really challenging. So I think affordability is a huge issue, um, going forward in 2024 and the future. Cincinnati was not forecasted by Zillow as one of the nation's hottest housing markets 2023. We talked about that already. But it's one of the fastest selling housing markets. Okay. So what does that mean for you guys? And I'll give a few tips here, I guess. If you're looking to buy something here in the Cincinnati market, in fact, I think I even made a little tips. I'm going to give you tips, guys. I wrote a few notes earlier, but tips on buying a house in a high velocity or fast market. And by the way, if you guys want to talk some Bengals, I'm here for it. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. So number one, you need to have your expectations set right. It's important to know, if you are looking to buy here in the next year, that that there's low inventory, that houses are going fast, that you might lose out on some because other people want to buy houses too. And so you need to have your expectation right, and you need to know, if you want to bid on something that's just hitting the market, you need to be aggressive. What does that mean? That could mean having the best financing possible, so not being contingent. Can you put 20% down? Can you be cash? Obviously, cash is king. Not everyone can do that, I understand, but how can you make your financing look as good as possible? There's other ways to be aggressive. We'll talk about that. Number two, I said cash is king. So if you have cash, great. If you have like a rich uncle or something, hit them up. Cash, or if you're selling from another city, sell there first, potentially, as opposed to being contingent on your offer here and needing that one to sell. Consider selling your home in the other market, getting all that equity out. Now, potentially, you could buy cash, or you could put 30, 40, 50% down or something like that. I have a lot of buyers who do that, who go that route. But yeah, cash is definitely king in a fast market. Number three, sorry. This is important because people miss this a little bit. Even though Cincinnati, any market that's high velocity, yes, houses can sell in a few hours, but you don't necessarily have to be the first offer. There is a strategy where you get in and you make an offer they can't refuse, and you pull it back, but you have to be willing to pull it back. Most sellers won't do that, and they'll kind of blow you off, because most sellers in this market, where there's low inventory and a lot of demand, they want to get all the offers. And so they want to leave the house on the market for the weekend, because they want to pick between 7 or 8 offers or something like that. Because then, and this is what I do when I'm a listing agent. So if you're looking to sell your house, hit me up. Is I want a lot of offers, and then I want to take the best offers, and I want to say, hey, congratulations, you are in the final 3 or the final 2. But this offer over here is willing to do this. Are you willing to do that? So then I'm even leveraging up the best offers to the end. Now, when you're in the seller's seat and you're a listing agent, you know how to leverage that. That's great. And when you're in the buyer's seat, what I would say is, you don't necessarily want to be the first offer in. Speed is not necessarily the best route. A tactic I've had a lot of success with is coming in a little bit later, and trying to get as much information as possible. So if they tell you when they're going to be reviewing offers, let's say it's 3:00 on Sunday afternoon, we'll be reviewing. Great. I want to call you up at 1 p.m. on Sunday afternoon and be like, what do you got in hand? We love this house. We want to win. What would it take to win? Now, the listing agent may or may not give that info to you, but they might. And I kind of like coming in last. And if you, the buyer, are willing to be aggressive, and if you want to win the house, it's nice to know what it takes to win the house, as opposed to putting in an offer early and just like crossing your fingers and be like, I hope we win. Let us know if you get anything better. I don't know. You can do it either way. But if you're going up against a lot of offers, I kind of like to know What do I have to do to win? And if that's too high for you, my buyer, my client, then forget it. Like it's too high. And then we need to shop at a different, maybe a lower price point if we're not willing to go up that high next time. So that's one tip. Another tip number 1, 2, 3, 4. Be as generous on the terms as you can. So it's not just price. It might be price. It might be cash. It might be the highest price point. It might be an escalation clause on top of that, meaning we'll beat any other offer by X amount of dollars up to a certain cap that you're comfortable with. But it also might be things like we can close faster. We can close in 2 weeks. It might be things like we can close slower. We can give you 45 days or 60 days to go shopping for your next house, or we can close in 30 days and give you occupancy for 30 or 45 days, meaning they're going to live in your house that you own. Okay. We have a document for it. They can't like blow it up or anything like that, but basically they're going to pay you rent, or you work it out in the terms of the deal, how much you're willing to pay. You give them occupancy so that they can go shop for the next one, or they're moving or doing whatever they need to do. But these are extra terms that you're giving. It's not just price, but if you're giving the seller more flexibility, those add up. Okay. Another one, waiving home inspections. I don't love doing that. Especially if you're a first-time home buyer. There's a few ways around this. You can actually bring in an inspector with you when you go see the house or before you offer, and they can kind of, some inspectors I know will do this, and they'll kind of give you maybe not a full inspection, but they'll be like, look, this house isn't going to fall down. Yeah, there's a few little things, but you're good to go forward. And that's really what you want to know. Like there's always going to be a few little things. Sometimes there's more than a few little things. But if you can waive an inspection, or at a minimum, a lot of times what we do is say, hey, we're going to still have our inspection because we want to know if there's anything crazy or not, if the house is falling down or there's, a big plumbing leak or something like that. But we're not going to ask for any repairs that cost less than $1,500 individually to repair. So we're not going to nickel and dime you on the ticky-tack stuff, the GFCI outlets, or the window sash that's broken, or the leaking toilet, or the leaking faucet, or the whatever, the electric that needs to be, in a whatever, like all these little things. We're not going to nickel and dime you on. But if there's something bigger than $1,500 to fix, or $2,000 or $3,000, like the higher you can go on that, kind of the better. But that's like your risk tolerance. That gives them peace of mind. That's like, great. They're going to move forward unless there's something big. And if there's something big, then yeah, we probably need to work with them on that. So best case scenario in that is you waive the inspection completely. But if you can't stomach that, I understand. Maybe you can at least limit, say, hey, we're only going to ask you for something if it's a big deal. That helps the sellers as well. An appraisal gap. If you are getting financing, I'll just go ahead and explain what an appraisal gap is, because we're probably going to be seeing more of those in 2024. An appraisal gap. Okay. Let's say the house is $400,000, and you have to be aggressive because there's 20 showings, and you offer $450,000. Okay, 50 grand over. Now, and you've got financing, you've got a loan. Okay, so that means there's a clause in the contract that says there's a contingency for you, the buyer, to protect you, that says if that home does not appraise for $450,000, you can get out of the deal. Now, typically what happens is you negotiate that with the seller, and maybe you have to pay some extra, because what that means, let's say the home's listed for 400, you offer 450, but a third party appraiser needs to come in there after your inspection, and they say, no, the house is only worth $420,000. It's not worth $450,000. Now, you can still buy the house for $450,000. However, the lender is only going to give you a loan up to $420,000, what it appraised for, which means you now have to come up with $30,000 in cash, or the seller has to come down on the price $30,000 in cash. Okay. So when you have what's called an appraisal shortage, you're short on the appraisal, you're short that 30 grand from 420 to 450. What an appraisal gap clause is you're not a cash buyer. It basically kind of makes you a cash buyer, because what your a gap clause says is, um, we are willing to pay over a shortage of a appraisal gap up to $30,000. That would cover you from that 450 to 420. And that's something you would put in your offer, whatever you're comfortable with. So in your offer, you would say, we're offering, um, we're offering 450. The home was listed at 400, and we'll do an appraisal gap of, up to whatever. It could be 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, whatever you feel, whatever you can cover in cash, because you need to be able to cover that. But that's giving the seller peace of mind that, okay, even if this home doesn't appraise for this higher amount, and that's a pretty big gap I'm giving you here in this example, maybe more realistic is like it's listed at 400. You offer 420 and it appraises for 410. So there's a 10, and you're like, we'll cover that $10,000 difference. You put that in your offer, or 20. Maybe you're willing to do 20, but the appraisal comes in at 410, so you only need to cover 10. But to the seller, that means even though you have financing, an appraisal gap is almost like having a cash offer. Does that make sense? So that's another thing where you're making your offer sweeter to the seller. So in a market where and that's what we're talking about here, in a market where there's low inventory and where there's high demand and where there's high velocity, houses are moving fast, and you need to be aggressive with your offer. These are some things you can do with your offer besides just we're going to pay the most. And as a seller, what you're looking for is you want the most money and you want the best terms. So if you can get both, awesome. Then you won. So you got to be thinking about that. Last tip I've got, this is, I guess, a little bit of a shameless plug, is work with a realtor who specializes with buyers, especially in this market, where it's going to be hot. Zillow says we're going to be the number 2 hottest market in 2024. So whether it's me or somebody else, but hey, we'd love to work with you here at Team Stanio, help you find that perfect home here in 2024. Okay, I think I'm done with real estate. If you got real estate questions, put them in the chat. I want to talk Bengals for a few minutes. I need to get some things off my chest. Is this blurry? Feels like it's a little blurrier tonight. Not sure. Okay, let's talk about the end of the season. How sad are you guys? Like, it's just so sad to me looking at what happened in the AFC, looking at the Chiefs. Like, I watched that Chiefs team. They're not that good. They don't, their offense is not that good. I guess we got eliminated playing them, didn't we? When Pittsburgh won. So we had those final 3 games, and there was oh gosh, what was it? Pittsburgh, KC. Who was the third team? Because we won one of them, didn't? Oh, Cleveland. And so we lost to Pittsburgh. We needed to win at KC, and then Cleveland, right? That was the order. Yeah, it was a sad way to go out. I mean, Jake Browning, good for you. You made yourself a career as a backup. Maybe you'll get a starting job somewhere in 2 years. Happy for you. I think we learned some things probably from the offense, which I think we were going to do this year anyway. Some more play action and some more rollouts. Jake Browning, I will say, impressed by his rollout ability, especially when he's like on a naked boot or something. He's got a defender coming untouched in his face. He's really good at those different arm angles to get it out to maybe a leaking tight end or running back or something like that. Impressed by that. Impressed by his mid-range accuracy. He's smart. He's calm. He's not like Burrow calm, but he's really calm. He's pretty poised. Doesn't have the arm. Doesn't have quite the the mental speed that Burrow does in terms of reading routes, but highly capable quarterback. Backup quarterback. So we got that. That's good to know going forward. But a lot of things to figure out here in this offseason. What are you guys thinking in terms of this team and what we should do priorities wise? For me, I'm looking at that interior defensive line, and I'm concerned. Reader's injured. I hear that podcast Growlin', which, by the way, if you guys don't listen to HTPG podcasts with Paul Daner, best one there is out there. So go subscribe to that podcast and thank me for it. But I was actually thinking the same thing with Reader being injured. So sad for DJ Reader is one of my favorite players. I just love the guy. He's just like no nonsense. I love his interviews. He's a great player. He's a leader. I just really, really like DJ Reader. And when he got injured right before he's going to get a payday, because I don't think we were going to pay him again, but he would have gone and got a 2 to 3 year deal somewhere and gotten paid really well because he's really stinking good. Um, that just broke my heart to see that happen. Now, that said, I think because he likes it here, potentially we could get him on a 1-year prove it deal, coming back from an injury, which he might not be that good either. So he might not, coming back from a major quad injury. He's already had a major knee injury. I think he's 30, 29, 30. It's going to be tough, but either way, we need help on the interior, because Zach Carter is not the answer. Gosh, watched a lot of Twitter tape of people showing just Zach Carter getting blown up. I'm like, I'm tired of that. Trey Hendrickson obviously is good. Sam Hubbard, I don't know what's going on there. Seemed like a little bit of a decline from him. Miles Murphy trending up. Like to see that. But that interior, both run stop and pass rush, we need something there. So what I want to see, so there's that. Let's go down the list. There's the decision with T. Higgins. Boyd is probably leaving. Mixon is probably leaving. Jonah Williams is probably leaving. So I think my order of priority here is like interior defensive line, and then right tackle, and then wide receiver. That's where I'm looking. I think they're probably going to bring back T on the franchise tag when Joe Burrow says we expect to see him back, and then I, as a fan, expect to see him back. But got a question rolling in here. I'm closing with Fisher at Reserve Meadow in 2 weeks. My independent inspection is tomorrow. Any last minute advice? Yeah. So what you're going to see on that inspection, it's going to be mostly clean, but basically you can't necessarily just hand them the report, but you can pretty much do that. So not sure who your inspector is, but they're going to find a few things, nothing major. But the nice thing about buying new is before you close, whatever comes up on that report, you just hand them the list and be like, here, can you go fix these things? And they'll be like, yep. And even if there's more things that pop up that they don't fix before closing, you've got this first year where you can write those things down on the list, and they come back and do those things within the first year. So you're probably going to get a little bit of settling and some like nail pops and things like that as the foundation potentially settles. But just little stuff might come up through the year. It's nice to have that inspection just for that peace of mind. But overall, it should be really clean, that report. There's going to be a handful of minor items, and you can basically just pass that on to your field rep, and they should take care of it. So, yeah, I think it's nice to have for the inspection. Ryan True is your inspector. I don't think I know Ryan or have used him before, but yeah, if they know what they're doing, they should find a handful of things, and you can basically just, like I said, give that to Fisher, your field manager, and they'll take care of it. So congrats. Meadowood's a cool area. I like that. Congrats on the new home. That's awesome. I hope a lot of people, I do still think that new construction is a great way to go in 2024. I look at a lot of resale homes in the price range, and I look at the new construction that might be 30 or 40 grand more for like the same house. And I'm like, man, it's nice to not have to do anything. It is really nice to walk into the new house, the newer floor plans that are not necessarily 20 or 25 years old, that account for a little bit more of today's lifestyle, I would say. New construction is a great route to go. Yes, you're very welcome. Congratulations. That's so exciting. It's so exciting. And I did get one. I sold a home up in Liberty Township at Trees Caravel. And I want to show you guys this real quick, because I got a message from sales rep up there that they are. This is up in Liberty Township. So really good schools up there in Liberty Township. And what's great about these homes is they have big lots. Not all. I'm trying to see if they have plots. I don't think they have a map of the plots here, but they just opened up a new division up here. Jason is who I was working with up there, Jason Bernhardt. They just opened up a new section. They've got half acre plus lots up here. Price point's a little bit higher. It's like 6 to 800, but this is where a lot of people, really good school district, people who may have bought in this price point in Mason for Mason schools a few years ago are looking at Liberty Township. And so, if you want more information about that, let me know. But some really nice houses up there, larger homes, 3,000 square foot plus, larger lots. So maybe bigger family, but just wanted you to know that they just opened up a new, oh, here we go, interactive site map. Oh, I guess I got it. Maybe if I click on the button, page not found. Okay. So guess they got to fix that. But again, Dries Homes, they build a great home. Fisher Homes build a really nice home in the area. Those are the two top builders in the areas in terms of units sold. But just want to let you know, new sections opening up there in Liberty Township. All right, guys. Oh wait, let's go back to. Wait, someone got a comment here. Big lots are hard to come by nowadays in new constructions. Good point. Yeah, I mean, a lot of a lot of those lots, like even in Ballyshannon, you're pretty tight. Going back to this article, I was trying to find it. Let me see if I can find it here, where it was talking about boomers. Maybe it was this one. There was I can't find it right now. There was a paragraph I read before talking about how, keeping that housing inventory shorter. A lot of that is because the boomers aren't selling, and I'm kind of just going through this with my folks. They're boomers. They're in their 70s. They live in the same Fisher Homes house that my dad bought in 1988. So they've lived in that house 35 years. They bought one of the first lots in the neighborhood. So they've got a view of a lake. They've got woods in their backyard. So no neighbors in the backyard. They built a pool. They have 35 years in that house, 35 years of Christmases and Thanksgivings and Easters and memories. And my mom's got the kitchen she loves. But it's a 2-story home, and they've got 70-year-old hips, and there's a lot of boomers facing that. And they're like, man, it's going to be hard to live here. But my parents went and looked, and they're like, okay, we could sell this. We could take the money, and the thing we could buy, it's going to be a lot smaller. The lot's going to be half the size. And we're going to be looking at a house in our backyard. And my mom's like, I like my bird feeders. I like seeing birds in my backyard, not another neighbor, and she's got a point. But the reason why I say that story is that's a microcosm of like America right now, not just Cincinnati, but like all across the country. You've got a lot of boomers who are like, man, can we just rehab this house to make it work? Can we get a first floor master somehow? Can we get a chairlift or an elevator, or, how do we figure this out? Because I could sell this. Yes, it's worth a lot more than when I bought it, but everything else costs a lot more too. And the rates are, I got to get a loan or whatever. Interesting. I just think that's another component of it. Most builders, because the inventory here is low, yeah, the lots are going to be a little bit smaller. There are places where you can get those bigger lots, like I'm saying, like Dries Caravelle here. But they're, now you're talking about a $400,000 to $500,000, or maybe $400,000 to $600,000 home, or even in the threes you can get with Dries and Fisher, versus if you want to buy that half acre plus lot, you're going to be up 600 plus more than likely for a home. Now they might have ranches a little bit cheaper here. Nope, not seeing it. I thought they had ranches. Oh, here it is. Yeah, there's a ranch, but it's $679. So there you go. But yeah, all of these lots, I believe, are like half acre or more. And they've got a few market homes here, 3,600 square feet. These are large homes, 4,600 square feet, $800,000 house. So yes, big lots are a little bit harder to find. So, okay. So I'm going to share a little bit more Bengals thoughts. If you guys have more real estate questions, send them in. That's fine. Here's my thoughts. My priorities: interior defensive line, right tackle, protect Joe, wide receiver. What am I missing? Punter, maybe. A little tired looking at you, Brad Robbins. Linebackers, maybe you draft a linebacker. Like, what is Akeem Davis-Gaither? Is he ever going to get on? Like, I feel okay about our corners. I think DJ Turner needs to put on some weight so he can tackle. I feel great about Cam. I feel good about Jordan Battle. I feel great about Dax's athleticism, but it seems like a few arrows were being thrown his way because it seems like a lot of those big chunk plays were because he was making mistakes. So Dax Hill, you got to figure it out. So here's what I want them to do in free agency. I do not, Brian Ramstetter, want them to go get Chris Jones. I don't want a giant, expensive free agent. I don't want the best one out there. I want this year's, because where they struck gold, I think, was the 2020. I think it was the 2020 free agency when they got Reeder and they got Mike Hilton and they got Von Bell. And who else did they get? But guys on these second contracts who are maybe 25, 26 years old, tier 2, tier 3 guys. I mean, if you want to get a tier 1, great, but that really depends on what you're doing with T. Like if you franchise him, it's $22 million right there. If you long-term contract him, then we've got very little room for others. I'm okay with one more year of franchise of T. Go for it in 2024 because your roster's still, you're not hitting those major cap hits with Burrow yet. And try to get some of these ascending tier 2 free agencies on their second contract. And maybe one. Maybe you overpay for like a Reader type guy. Because that defensive line needs it. It definitely needs it. We need some depth there. We need plenty of guys there. I think we need 2 to 3 to 4 guys on that line. I'm done with Zach Carter. I guess he could be rotation. I don't know, backup, whatever. Cam Sample. But we need some depth on that D line. BJ Hill, decent player, but we need a little juice on the interior. Am I right? Any Bengals fans out there? And then we got to figure out right tackle. I mean, you're going to have to go pay for right tackle, right? Or do you pay Jonah? Like, I'm okay paying Jonah. I think he's decent. We're going to have to draft on the line somewhere. I think round 1, round 2 has to be defense, has to be the trenches, either side, I think, right? Because also you got some aging. Karras is getting older. Kappa, Volson's okay. Like, we need Carmen's obviously not it. So we need to bolster the lines. That's what I'm feeling. Run it back with Jamar and T one more time. Can you get, next on the priority list, I guess, is a tight end or a slot receiver. Sample's a tight end. Sample's a free agent. Tanner Hudson's a free agent. Tanner Hudson, I like, but he's not great. I would really like. He was good, but he's not very strong. But he sits down well in the zone and makes some contested catches. I'm happy about that. I wouldn't be mad if Tanner Hudson came back. I would be mad if Irv Smith came back. Drew Sample did a lot for you. And I called that out beginning of the year. Like, hey, if you guys remember in the preseason, it's like, who's going to be the third down running back? We don't have P. Ryan. Who's going to block? And my thought at the time was throw Stanley Morgan and Drew Sample back there because those seemed to be the guys who could block. Stanley Morgan didn't make the team. Drew Sample we saw back there a lot the second half of the year. So then you also need a running back, right? And so because Mixon is more than likely gone, we're not going to put all of those resources into that salary again, even though Mixon, showed a little more explosion at the end of the year, but Chase Brown's got the explosion. So we need a stockier back who can get that short yardage kind of person who could block, and maybe have some explosion. So we're going to need that person. we need a lot. That's what I'm saying. Like, you've got to get these guys, not the big contracts. We've got a lot of holes to plug. Now, even with those holes, you get a healthy number 9 back, and I'm good. Like, and I feel good about our chances next year. But we got to get a healthy number 9 back. So I guess we'll keep watching these playoffs and all these teams that are inferior. I mean, I think it would have come down to the Ravens and the Bengals in the AFC Championship. Those look the Ravens look like a real team to me. I think it. But I'll be honest, if Texans go play Baltimore, CJ Stroud can play. That's a good team. And as Paul Dehner Jr. said, and he's right, Texans have that 2021 Bengals feel to them where they're young, they got a lot of talent, and they're like, it's not house money, but it's just kind of like, we don't expect to be here, but we are, and who knows? And we got a really good quarterback. So Texans could do some things. All right. What Cowboys got blown out? That's hilarious. Browns got blown out. That's hilarious. And is it Rams Lions tonight? Who's Pittsburgh playing? Buffalo. Go Bills. Go Bills. Just beat the Steelers. I wouldn't mind it if the Ravens go and win it. I don't know why. I don't have animosity for the Ravens like I do the Steelers. Browns, I'm just kind of like, whatever. You're the Browns. So yeah. All right. Some of you guys are still watching. I didn't get any Bengals comments for you. So there you go. That's all my Bengals comments. Be shutting it down for like 8 or 9 more months. So had to get them in. Probably the last time I'll talk about the Bengals this year. Guys, thank you for watching. We are at, I want to show you one more thing. I'm going to give you a little behind the scenes since you guys, 7 people of you are sticking around. I'm going to give you a little behind the scenes. Look at this. Check this out. 4,949 subscribers. We are so close to 5,000. Should be within the month. Maybe by the end of January, we'll get 5,000 subs, which is awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. The life I get to live, what I get to do in this job, trying to grow this business and bringing on other realtors this year. That's a big goal of mine, to kind of grow this team and also keep creating content that's valuable and hopefully even better than what we've ever done before. Because I love being able to, showcase this area and what it's got and what's going on. There's a lot more I want to do. There's interviews I want to do, a lot more videos I want to make. So thank you for watching. Thank you for choosing us as your realtor. It means the world to me. We've got an event coming up in February. I guess I should shout that out as well. We're going to go back to the aquarium because February in Cincinnati is cold and there's no humidity and it's gray. So we're going to go into the most tropical place we have, which is the Newport Aquarium. And we're going to feel that humidity. We're going to look at some fish and we're going to pretend like we're all on the beach. We've got some swag potentially coming up again. So if you're in the Stanio Clanio, you should have the invite by now. Stanio Clanio, not just YouTube subscribers. Stanio Clanio have bought a house with us and our clients. You get to go to fun events like that one. More than likely, we would do a Reds game again this year because that was a blast last year. So fun things coming up, and I look forward to seeing a bunch of you guys at that event. Thank you again so much for watching. You guys mean the world to me. Have a great night. Maybe go watch some football. That's not the Bengals, unfortunately, but Houday. Have a good one, everyone. Have a great week. We'll talk to you later.